Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Kubectl interview question series. So today we're going to go over a few more questions. Again, and all these questions are part of a publicly available GitHub repo that I have, and the link to that repo is in the description below. So if you rather have written version of this, that's the place to go. But in the video, I can give you a lot more context and what the interviewer is thinking, and so on and so forth. All right, let's get started. The first question: how do you look at the deployment's history? Here, the interviewer is looking for your knowledge about simple commands. Now, don't get scared by looking at how long this command is. All he or she is looking for is the first three parts. So kubectl rollout history. Rollout being the key here. If you ever want to see a history of the deployment that been gone out in the last whatever time frame, what you do is you say kubectl rollout, that's the keyword, the history, and then deployment and whatnot. So if you're dealing with deployments day to day in Kubernetes environment, you would know this because you'd be running these commands a couple times a week. All right. Next question: kubectl command to change the image version of a deployment on the fly. Here, the interviewer is looking for the keyword set, right? So just to give you some context, the kubectl has many subcommands. So there's run, there's create, there's rollout, there's set, there's describe. All of those are all the verbs that goes with kubectl at the subcommand level. Set is what sets an image of a deployment or a pod and whatnot, right? So you have to know that particular keyword, and that's the keyword that the interviewer is looking for, because if you were dealing with Kubernetes day to day, you would know that's the subcommand to use to set the image of a deployment, right? Again, you don't have to know the whole command. That is not the point. All right, next question: kubectl command to list of existing deployment. That is super easy question. If somebody's asking you this question, it's probably just a teaser to see where you land. So if he or she is asking you this question, it'll probably be in the very beginning of an interview, because this is an easy one. If you can't get this one right, the interview is pretty much over, because this is such a simple thing that anybody with any knowledge of Kubernetes should be able to get. So again, the command is kubectl get deployments, just like any other resources. So if you want to look at pods, you say kubectl get pods. If you're looking at persistent volumes, you say kubectl get PV. If you're looking for PVCs, you just say kubectl get PVC. Same thing with secrets and config maps and whatnot. So again, this is such an easy thing to know that this would probably be a first easy question that interviewer might ask you. Next question: why do you need a certificate in the Kubernetes anyway? Well, there's many reasons, but if nothing else, if you have the API server or the etcd or what else, when they're communicating between themselves, they don't want to just take any request that comes their way and answer it, because that could be a huge security flaw. So you need certificates between them to be exchanged at the very beginning of the conversation, so that if the master server is reaching out to talk to etcd or whatever, those initial conversation starts with handing over the certificate. When the receiver of the certificate validates the certificate, looks good, only then it responds to the request. So if your environment gets hacked, somebody makes a request directly to the etcd to grab all your data, they can't get that unless they actually have the certificate. So this is why you need certificates all over the place in Kubernetes. You will see in real life, the certificates are often automated, but they're used all the time in many different situations. All right, next question. This is not so much a Kubernetes question, but it's more of a security question, but it is part of Kubernetes as well. So when you first want to create a certificate, you have to create a CSR, and that CSR is the beginning of the process, right? So what is a CSR? CSR is a certificate signing request. So you do that before you actually grab a certificate that you can use down the road. And here the interviewer is looking for your knowledge of certificates, how they work, because it's such an integral part of how Kubernetes security is managed. All right, next question. Why does the Kubernetes have certificates API? That's because the signing process can be automated end to end, right? So you don't have to do these things manually. You can just have an API that receives the certificate request, generates one, puts it back to you, and then you can use that. You can use that certificate to the next steps going forward, right? That's why you need. That's why there's a certificate API for in Kubernetes. All right. I hope you found these questions and answers useful and the context behind them. If you do, please like and subscribe. That helps me with the YouTube's algorithm. And I will see you in the next Kubernetes interview questions video.